In addition to the candidates we will be voting for in the primary election on August 30th, and in addition to the proposed constitutional amendment, Amendment 4, we also in the St. Lucie County voting on uh, will be voting on a proposal to add a tax for the fire district. And this will be only for St. Lucie County, but will be titled on your ballot Authorization to Fund Fire Protection Services with Annual Non-Ad Valorem Assessments. Shall St. Lucie County Fire District level annual non-ad valorem assessments commencing fiscal year 2017 for fire protection services as followed. Residential, $50 per dwelling unit. Commercial, 9 cents per square foot. Industrial warehouse, 2 cents per square foot. Institutional, 11 cents per square foot. Vacant land, $22.77 per parcel up to 160 acres, plus 10 cents per acre for 161 to 640 acres, with increases limited to the previous 5 years' annual growth rate in Florida's personal income. And what we're talking about here is creating a new property tax. As we have studied in the past, from Deuteronomy chapter 19, verse 14, property taxes are not a valid way. They're not a valid tax. They're not a valid way to collect money and to raise the amount of money that is needed for various services. In Deuteronomy chapter 19, verse 14, we read, "You shall not remove your neighbor's landmark, which the men of old have set, in your inheritance, which you will inherit in the land that the Lord your God is giving you to possess." So when God gave the children of Israel their land, he actually said, this is your borders. And each person, each family had their own border. And when the father died, that should be carried on to his children, and then to his grandchildren, and then to his great-grandchildren, and so on. With property tax, if you don't pay your property tax, the government will come and actually take your land away from you. And so you don't have that inheritance to the children and the grandchildren throughout and so on until the property is sold. So we see that this property tax violates the commandments of God. And so because of that, we should oppose it. But let's talk a little bit about this tax. Now, the fire district says they need this, and they say that what happened was they actually have a reduction in the amount of money that they're receiving based on an exemption that was passed into the Constitution by voters, adding an additional property tax exemption. Voters in Port St. Lucie, Fort Pierce, and St. Lucie County will soon determine how best to keep residents and property owners safe from fire emergencies. On Wednesday, the St. Lucie County Fire District Board of Commissioners agreed to put this non-ad valorem assessment not to exceed $50 per single-family home on the August 16th ballot as a countywide referendum. The district's fire services are currently paid through property taxes, and those revenues are capped at 3 mills. This funding was adequate until the recession, and expanded homestead exemptions dramatically reduced property values. In 2006, the district received $57 million in property tax. By 2010, that revenue had dropped to about $36 million, a loss of more than $21 million, despite cuts to staffing, benefits, capital improvement, and vehicle replacement, and using reserve funds to balance the budget as the economy slowly improves. The funding gap for the district still exists to this day. And so what they're actually asking for is to increase the taxes that you pay, uh, and for this will be applied if you own your home, you'll pay the extra $50. If you rent your home, well, what's going to happen what's the landlord going to do? He's going to raise your rent. Rents are already expensive uh, for for individual people that are renting homes. How about commercial property? 9 cents per square foot. Well, a faster PC rents 800 square foot. So the cost on that would be $72 a year. Well, who's going to pay that? Well, you know, uh, the landlord's not going to eat that. They're going to be raising their rent to recoup this. Drive up and down US 1. Look at how many vacant retail places are. Of course, those places the landlord will have to pay the taxes, or the government will come and take the land away from him. And so, this is going to make things worse, not better. Now, obviously, we want the fire department to come to our house when we have a fire, but that's really not all that they do. In fact, one of the things they've said is that that their number of calls has dramatically increased. Well, what are they going out for? Are they going out for thousands and thousands and thousands of fires that are happening each year? Of course not. The amount of fires that we actually have are very few in this county. Yet what they're going is every time there's an accident, you have multiple fire trucks. Quite often, fire trucks, ambulances, all kinds of things going to help out. We had at our store one day, I was actually working on computers, and we already had closed our shutters. We close the shutters every night. I'm sitting in there working on computers, and all of a sudden I heard what sounded like a truck going right through the grass and right through the yard area. But I didn't hear a crash, so I thought, well, I'm not sure what that was. I just went on and worked. Well, about 10 minutes later, I walk outside the front door, and there's someone has actually driven off of US 1, and their car just miraculously, really, I mean, it had to be guided by angels, because the guy was passed out. But he was actually went between the guardrail and flew over a median, a parking median, about 2 feet or 3 feet in the air between the guardrail and the sign for Papa Louie's. He then went between a light pole and another sign for Caldwell Bankers before he bottomed out in our grass in front of our building, and then came to a stop. He actually did hit our sign, but he was going so slow at that point because he had bottomed out that it really didn't cause a large noise. Well, there were injuries, and the ambulances did come to take him away. But let me tell you, they had 2 ambulances, 1 fire truck there, and this was not a situation where there was major injuries. There and I've called. Sometimes I've witnessed an accident, and I've called on the phone, and they ask, well, are there injuries? Well, how do you know whether there are injuries? Of course, they need to probably send out one ambulance, but do they need to send out so many? Most of the time, no. And with a simple question of, well, is the injury, does it look like there are serious injuries here? If there are no serious injuries, you can get another ambulance there if you need them. Send out one. Another thing that's happened in our county is that the county board of fire commissioners. By the way, the fire board is not elected, and one of my friends actually told me that one of the state senators, Senator Negron, actually told him that there's over 1,600 independent taxing agencies. These are taxing agencies in the state of Florida that collect money from you without you being able to vote on them. And in the fire board, that's exactly what happens. In some counties they actually do vote on fire commissioners, but in our county we don't vote on fire commissioners. They're appointed by the governor. We have no say so over who is over us, and really no accountability to determine how they vote and what they stand for. Well, a few years ago, the fire board actually decided that, well, a fireman could work for 20 years and retire and collect the same amount of money throughout his lifetime. Well, that's very convenient for a fireman. I'm not certainly, I know that very often they do put their lives at risk, but you know what? So do construction workers. So do a lot of people put their life at risk. That there are certain risk to really every line of work. And I'm not minimizing that risk that they're enduring here. But what happens, I mean, when we think about this, we're thinking, well, there's a guy out there making like 35 grand. No, they're making quite a bit more than that. In fact, some of them are making as much as $150,000 a year, more than the governor of the state of Florida. What happens also is that the amount of money that they get each year is based on how much money they got in the last maybe 3 years. It's like an average of the last 3 years. Well, what happens in the last 3 years? Well, they're making more money than they've made their entire career. As they've had raises and as they may have moved up in the line of command. And they also will work overtime. They'll work as many hours as they can to increase the amount of money that they're going to get throughout their lifetime. So we see increases in waste, that really are sucking the life out of and sucking up the money that is available. Also, in addition to this, one of the things that happens when you build a property, when you build a home or a business or industry in the state of Florida, in our county, is our county has an impact fee. And so this impact fee is supposed to go to fund, new fires, new schools, new fire trucks, new buildings, and so on and so forth. It's supposed to reduce. In fact, liberals will tell us, well, you should be in favor of this because it reduces the amount of taxes that you pay. Well, one of the things that's happened, they can only use that on new buildings, and they're limited on what they can use it for. And they may be able to use it on new vehicles as well, but they're limited. And well, in my parents' neighborhood, where they probably have seen in the last 20 years a 10% increase in population. And in the next 20 years, they probably will see maybe a 1% increase in population because the neighborhoods are almost completely built out. Yet in this neighborhood, they had a fire station that accommodated the needs of that area just fine. Yet they built a brand new one that's probably 3 to 4 times larger in size. And of course, they did sell the one that they had, but they built this new one. Now they're complaining that they don't have enough money to maintain it, and they're complaining that they don't have enough money to build. So we see a lot of waste has been happening with the fire district. So I am opposing this fire tax. I'm opposing it based on biblical grounds.